Okay, in this video I'm going to go over my classes from the first ever Mustang Classic, all English Mustang show. It's taken me a little while to sort of recover from shock, anger, all the emotions, disappointment in how this competition was scored, and how they treated those of us that had an issue with how the scoring was done and kind of how everything was done. For me, this is the Olympics of the Mustang world right now, and the winner of this competition should, at this caliber, should never be having fences down, refusals, things like that. I think that we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and also to make it not taboo, to criticize and to point out and say things when they are in fact wrong, and not okay. So getting that out of the way, like I said, it's taking me a little while to get over that. But now that's out of the way, I can just talk about my classes. So I don't ever want to do this competition again. I do, and if anybody wants to do it, I'm hoping that maybe me going over these classes will help you. So this is dressage. It was pretty cool to compete in the Rolex Stadium. It's pretty surreal to walk into that arena. So you can, in dressage, you can go on the outside of the arena and kind of get your horse, used to seeing things, because it is hard to ride down center line when they're speaking at the judges if they've never seen them before. I was told to go and say hi to the judges, which I'd never done in dressage before. And it's funny because they just looked at me really strange when I did that. So, whatever. Going down center line here. And with Leanda, she really doesn't have that much training. I just did really light training with her until April, when I decided to really start focusing on competing in Las Vegas. And decided to, she's going to be my personal horse. So I just, like to start them in a hackamore, Bosal, as most people know them as. And, I do very little contact with the face until I really get them moving well and forward. And I just didn't have that time here. So when I decided to do the classic, which was, in June, which is only a few months before this, I didn't put a bit in her mouth and really start working her with a bit until July, after the challenge, so, which is the Western show of this. So she's really inconsistent with her head. I knew this was going to be our weakest class, so I thought I could just kind of I don't know, wing it, I guess, and make do. And the judges weren't buying it. Really good judges in this dressage class, I think. And of course they weren't buying it. So she's fussy. She's not really through over her back. Because she's fussy, it's detracting from the fact that she is actually quite rhythmic and swinging with her back, and her her rhythm is really good, and her suppleness. But you can't even focus on that because she's so fussy with her head. I probably would have been better off, and you can see there she just kind of popped into the canter rather than really rounding and coming up into it. And this is all green stuff that takes a long time to develop. How a lot of people can do shortcuts here is using draw reins and things like that, which just makes them have a headset, which is not really correct. We don't use draw reins. And so, like I said, I was just trying to make do and smooth it over for this show. And I probably should have, and I think right here is when I figured out that I probably would just leave her face alone a little bit. And this one it's supposed to be a stretching circle. And with her, I couldn't really see how she's just fussy with it. She really doesn't like the contact, and I don't like to have a lot of contact either. And so I probably would have been better off just kind of leaving her alone for most of the test, and just worked on getting her nice and forward. But hindsight's 2020 and all of that. If I'd had more time, if I'd had like the year that everybody else had, or even if I had started her, like if I were to do it again, I would, and if anybody's doing both competitions, I would just start your horse in a bit and really give them the time to get okay with it and learn to carry that. So this was something that was really hard for her too, just to drop her head. We found out a month prior that her teeth were really quite out of balance. And so, gosh, it wasn't even a month prior. I think it was like 2 weeks prior to this, and got her teeth fixed and balanced. I did have her teeth done by a vet initially, but I had a different equine dentist check her out, and she's like, she can't put her head down because of her teeth. Mind you, I didn't tell her I was having trouble putting her head down, and sure enough, she didn't start even attempting to put her head down until her teeth were fixed, and then she really started. It was like a night and day change. So highly recommend, if you're struggling with that, have your horse's teeth looked at by more of a holistic type dentist, because that's what I did. That's all focuses on the body. But it's not a bad test. Like, it's very accurate. And I think we scored 62, which is, I don't think I've scored lower than 62 ever on a dressage test, so that was good. I placed us in the top third of the class, which was also good. But yeah, it's just more of, if I had, a little bit more time to really get her to settle in the bridle and be okay with contact, this test would have been a much better. But you could see she kind of naturally just has a swinging rhythmic gait, which is really pleasant to watch. But me fussing with her head so much is not helping. So don't make that mistake. I would say just go ahead and start right away in the bridle, even if you're riding Western, and then being okay with contact. She just had like a little bit of a trip there. A lot of horses tripped right there in that one spot, which I thought was very interesting. I did notice that quite a bit. I do want to say huge kind of shout out to Marcia Sapp for commentating on all of these. I silenced it so you can hear my annoying voice instead. But she was quite good and fair and interesting to listen to, and did a really, really good job. So the fact that you can remember all of that in a dressage test, you do get them ahead of time, like they're already set for many years in advance. So, and then the walking, I really had to kind of change how she halts, because she wants to put her butt in the ground and stop like a Western stop. So trying to get her to be English for 2 months was hard. She had to learn how to jump, do dressage, and do working equitation in 2 months. So she's quite exceptional for that. She's only 4. And I love that she just kind of strolled out on a loose rein. But you could see once I start fussing with her, she did better. So this is the next class. This is the working equitation. It was a very technical, complicated, twisty-turny course. I found out, and trying to learn all the little rules and everything was really hard. I'd never done working equitation. This is the first working equitation pattern I have ever done. I did ask a lot of questions, and I found out that you can, until they ring their little bell or whatever, you can literally go and trot through and around everything. As soon as they ring the bell, you can't cross. You can go around, and you have so much time to start. And you have to salute to start. Otherwise, you can get disqualified just from simply not saluting or forgetting to salute. And here you could see I just let her go. I gave her a loose rein. I wasn't even going to fuss with her bit. She doesn't need face contact, rein contact for any kind of quote-unquote control. She's well in control of herself. She just needs it for signal. But what she hasn't learned yet is how to really come, through over her back and ride into some kind of contact, and to develop some level of collection. So this is all a lot of very false collection that she just naturally possesses. But she doesn't need me to haul on her mouth. So in this, I decided I'm just going to give her more of a loose rein, and she was much happier. I probably, I don't know, would have scored better in dressage if I had just done that. I don't know. I've never shown a horse quite this green in dressage in a walk trot canter. I've done walk trot with a green horse and done fairly okay, including with her. I think I've won Western dressage in Tennessee with her in Western dressage. So their little bell rang or whatever, and I saluted, and then you're supposed to pick up her lead. She's been struggling with this left lead departure for quite some time. So thankfully I hadn't passed anything, so it's not judged. But it's very much twisty-turny. It was complicated. I would have loved to have seen anybody in that top 10. I think I know of at least one person that would have been quite good at this, but I guarantee you they would have struggled big time who did make this top 10. This was, I don't know if you can see how hard this is, but it's really freaking hard. So you're supposed to lope in between and then, or canter in between. And then where I lost some points here is you could see she loses some rhythm because she's really not collected. She just happens to jog kind of, and she's kind of a handy little thing, and she kind of jogs short, strided. So I got away with that. But it's dressage based, so they kind of like her rhythm was lost. This was actually quite nice. And she changed her lead over because you should be on the right lead to go into this. And I thought I would show off a little bit and do these tight little turns. And they got me on it. She really isn't straight. See how much she's leaning. She should be straight, which means level. That means her shoulders should be level. She should be really rounding nicely on those turns. And they dinged me a little bit for that. Which I think is quite awesome because they are really holding you to a standard. And this kind of loping in between can be a little intimidating. What a lot of people were intimidated by was this next one where you have to literally pick up a spear while moving, while trotting, and spear this bull. This is a ring, which I was super stoked that I got the ring. I think I was one of the few people that did. And then put it in butt first without anything falling out, like that. And so we kind of lost a little rhythm there. And then here is where I got lost. She picked up a lovely canter, and then I'm like, oh crap, what is the next thing? Because it doesn't really flow from one like obstacle to the next. And so it's kind of hard to remember. And so I got a little lost there. Then I'm like, okay, it's the bridge. And so that's what we're going to next is the bridge. And so one of the things they didn't like, so you have to walk before you hit those cones, is that she was a little hesitant. There should be no hesitation, which is very different than what I'm used to with trail. Like, we kind of like them to kind of look at it and navigate it, but they want them just to flow over. I got a little lost here again. You can kind of tell that I'm like, I don't really know where I'm going. So I walked a little longer than I should have. And the next one is this bell. And she actually did this, I thought, really, really well. You can walk up and ring it, but I went ahead and had her trot, and she halted so nice and square. And then you have to back out of it. I mean, for a horse, any horse, but a horse with 6 months training to be able to actually do have 6 months training, maybe 5. This is quite complicated. So the next one is the gate. And they wanted more of a different approach to that, I think. I was looking at it. So you get notes. You get like a test, just like in dressage, and they tell you, and they write notes on it, on what they liked and what they didn't like. And I think they wanted me to approach that more perpendicular, I think. So I got kind of just slightly dinged on that. And then this was lovely. She just picked up her canter right away. And I actually remembered where we're going. And this one is, they have to stop right next to that. You have to pick up this cup. And I think this one you could just exit. And you can't start, and then you canter. And she picked up the canter right away, right after those cones. And then you go to this scary thing, which she kind of looked at a little bit, but then she was being very trusting, and I was really happy about that because this could be really hard. Now, in the more advanced level, you actually like canter this, which is insane to me. And she walked around that really quite lovely. And then you're supposed to do a turn on the haunch, which of course she spins. So I had to teach her how to do a correct turn on the haunch, and that was a very correct turn on the haunch. The back legs need to move and make a small circle. Rather than actually pivoting on one foot. So I was so worried, like, please don't pivot, because she's actually quite good at her spin. So she's just, really nice, versatile horse. And I probably should have made a circle instead of just trying the sideways lope that I did there. And then these are side pass poles. Get the side pass this way, and then move up and side pass the other way. And where they dinged me a little on this was it's not quite straight. She should be much more straight. You see, she kind of like lags with her hind end, and her head and neck. She's just not straight, right? So a little bit of a ding there. I'm being hypercritical because even in a actual working equitation competition, she would have placed quite well. We ended up second in this class and well earned. I mean, um, she was really quite lovely and trusting for such a green Mustang, and it's been pleasant to watch. That was a little bit rough. Oh, that was my little salute, and I'm done. I was so fucking proud of her. Oh my god. Excuse my French there. My biggest recommendation for this working EC is to build as many of these obstacles as you possibly can. They don't have to be pretty at home to practice them, because there's just not a lot of working equitation competitions to get practice in. So this is the last class. It was later in the afternoon, and this is the show jumping. And they had two different heights. You could either do 1 foot or you could do 2'3", which is a pretty big disparity. I feel like it should be, I feel like 18 inches would have been fine. I was perfectly happy with doing something smaller because I haven't jumped in like a really long time. I probably haven't competed jumping in like 20 years or something. Like, it's a really long time. And she's very green. Never tried to jump anything on her until after the Vegas show. So she maybe had about, I don't know, 6 weeks of jumping experience. So this first jump we left a little long, and then I just kind of let the reins run through my hands so I didn't get her in the mouth. And I have a very forward seat. I learned to jump in the 90s, and so we were still having a very forward seat back then. I was hoping she would do a lead change there, but she didn't, so I just did a simple. This was a lot of kind of galloping. They used the entire arena, which is huge. And so just kind of these, and they were very interesting lines. They were not really related. There were many strides in between, so no real combinations, not a lot of real questions. So, I mean, it probably could have been a little more technical, I think. So that this jump was okay. Here she's really focusing on the outgate. I could feel her leaning on me. She wasn't paying attention. She was kind of fighting me right there. And then she's like, just did total baby green, forgot that she had feet and clobbered that sucker. And then she's really out of balance. So it really put her out of balance here. So I'm trying to bring her back, but bring her back kind of softly. Because I knew she was going to kind of spook at this fence because all of the horses were spooking at this fence because the judges were sitting right there. And so I just let her trot over that, which is completely acceptable. They were kind of encouraging that. And then she kind of felt a little bit better here and kind of came back to me and settled. And so we had practiced some like actual lines. And so it was these were broken lines. It was kind of a big galloping type course, which I don't think she was well suited for, but she still makes a pleasant picture. And so this was our last jump. And I just went ahead and threw in a little flying lead change here because she does know how to do them. And she felt good. And that was really a nice one. I was happy with her there. But I kind of hope that they make the height just a smidge higher. I think they would jump better. And then I would have definitely started teaching her to jump long before if I wanted to do both these competitions ever again, which I don't. So, but if you do,